Right. So you said you've been preparing for it, right? So let's start with a little bit of an introduction, right? How about you
Okay.
tell me a little bit about yourself? What brings you here? What motivated you to work on your English? Right? Things like that. Very basic things about you. A brief description about you.
Okay, ma'am. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Shamsher Yadav. I am from Chandauli, Uttar Pradesh. If I talk about my education, so recently I have completed my master degree. Apart from
Mm-hmm.
this, I run my own teaching institute in my hometowns. And if I talk about my hobbies, so I love to listening music, learning English, and interact with the peoples like you. Thank you. That's all about me.
Hmm. Can you come again with your hobbies? You said interacting. You like talking to new people, and what else?
Listening music. Listening music.
Listening to music. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Fair enough. So there are very good podcast channels. Try to follow some of them, right? Some of them post regularly, which are really good, and the English is also, I would say, it's good enough for you to learn from it. So that's there.
Yes.
Some podcasts are actually like you should watch them regularly.
So, ma'am, please recommend some podcast channels so I can watch them.
Some podcast channels. Okay. So one of the Indian English channels is I don't know if you have gone through it, but there is one called TRS, which is Ranveer Show. I think he's a very popular Indian podcaster in general. But he has two channels. He has one in Hindi, one in English, right?
Okay,
So
ma'am.
he is a pretty good one, I would say. Apart from that, if you are practicing, sorry, if you are practicing English, then there is one called LEP, which is Learning English Podcast. That is the name of the channel also. That is a pretty good channel to look out for if you're practicing English. They come up with stories, conversations, all sorts of things. If you like to listen to a lot of mysterious things and everything, then there's this American podcaster. What is his name? His channel is called Wendigo. WENDIGOON. So he also posts really good podcasts, so very, very long podcasts, like 3 hours sometimes.
Okay,
So
it's so
yeah,
long. It's so very long. So because 3 hours is more than enough.
yeah.
So
But he
yeah,
has
I will.
chapters in it, so you can pause it at any. Like one chapter is around half an hour, so after that you can pause it, listen to it later. So he has breaks in his podcasts. That's the thing.
Okay, ma'am. I will definitely check that.
Hmm. So yeah, so a lot of podcasts like that. Idea being to try to follow some channel regularly. That helps you build up your vocabulary from a particular place. So
Yes, ma'am.
that's that.
So
I'm saying the idea is that you try to follow like few particular channels so that you're regularly updating yourself from those channels. That way, it's helpful for you to learn better vocabulary.
okay, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, right. Talking about English, what motivated you to come to us? What motivated you to start working on your English? Currently, also, you're
Actually,
speaking quite well, right? So, what motivated you?
Actually, if I talk about my this inspiration, so I am from the
Mhm.
village area. So generally,
Okay.
people used to speak in Bhojpuri and Hindi, and if anyone
Okay.
speaks in English, so he gets respect very much. So these things inspired me.
Hmm.
So that's why I have decided
Oh.
to start my English journey. And after
Hmm.
that, I run my own teaching institute in my hometown. So there is I teach it English. So that's why there is also English is required. And if I talk about third reason, so English is a global language. And
Hmm.
if anybody want to eat, and I like traveling. So suppose in future I'm getting the chance to go into the abroad. So maybe so in that condition, in English will
Hmm.
help me. So these are the
Hmm.
some reasons by which I have started my English journey.
All right. Fair enough. Makes sense. First reason is quite actually, I would say, rather knows. The first reason you said was because if somebody speaks English in your village, they get a lot of respect. I know. Why is that? Hindi is also a good language, man.
But ma'am, I don't know, but this is the from my childhood. I'm
Uh-huh.
seeing this scene. If any person speaks in a single word English, everybody begin to
Oh.
watch. Wow, what's a person? And they
Hmm.
respect them very much. So that's why those things always inspire me. In the school, if any students give the speech in English, so that student is respected all over the school. So those things also inspired me. So that's why I have decided over the time I will learn English
Hmm.
and I will explore myself. So these are the
Hmm.
basic reasons that I have.
Makes sense. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, interesting fact, but yeah, it's true. English is something that's like not very common around Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, these regions. So if
Yes, ma'am.
somebody speaks or if somebody practices and then speaks correctly, that's a big thing. Because there is no environment to practice, right? So people are usually surprised that how did you even learn it? Because
Yes,
not a
ma'am.
lot of people are there to practice with. So
Yes, this is the reason.
yeah.
Because in my area completely people unaware of English. There is English medium school also. Even though English medium school, the student who are studying in English medium school, they are not able to speak in English. I don't know what is the reason, but they should speak in English, but they, due to
Hmm.
lack of environment, they are also not able to speak in English. If in that condition, if I have start to speak in English, so maybe I am getting lot of respect, and I'm making
Hmm.
money whatever I have learned till now. So I am making money with the help of this English. So that's why I have decided to explore myself some more, so that I
Hmm.
can perform in my field.
Hmm. That makes sense. Fair enough. But yeah, this is common, in India that even if the school is English medium, people there don't speak in English. So that's that. It's a very common thing around the rest of India also. So it's not just your village, but even in Delhi, in places like Delhi, um, now kids have like I don't know, the environment has changed and upgraded a little bit. But when I was younger, it was very common for people to speak in Hindi even in an English medium school. So things are
but
changing now. Now kids want to speak in English, but yeah,
but only ma'am, because of English, the English medium school is taking lot of money for English, and
that is
parents are
true.
giving. So what is the need of wasting their time if the boys and girls are not getting any kinds of benefit, any.
That is true. And it happens in all states, it's not just your village. Don't ever feel that, oh no, it's happening here only. It's happening everywhere. You'll come to Delhi, you'll see the same thing. You go to any place in the south, you'll see the same thing. That although the schools are taking money in the name of an English medium school, not a lot of focus is being put on speaking in English. Like the teachers themselves are talking to you in Hindi, then what can you do? At least you would expect the teacher to know good English if it's an English medium school, right? But that is not even the case. Like even they prefer to talk in Hindi. Although their English is good, they can talk in English. They prefer to talk in Hindi. So
Yeah,
that's why.
yes, because ma'am, the teacher teaches in the school. He teaches literature portion, but his communication English is not very good. Yeah, this thing
Yeah.
I generally recognize in the school, and and the communication school attract the students to learn the English. If the teacher have no good communication skill, so it will not affect. It will not give a good impact over the students. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion, teachers should have both knowledge, both skills, literature section as well as communicative English. So that will help
Hmm.
them perform better.
Hmm. That is true. I think communicative English is not being focused on in any school. Nowadays, in a lot of private schools, if you go to IB boards, CBSE boards, ICSE boards, There, the focus is a little more, but that too in bigger towns. In smaller towns, they are still not focusing on it, which is wrong. If you're taking so much money from the parent in the name of an English medium school, at least teach them English then. So, yeah, that's
Okay,
how.
ma'am, but one thing we are missing before
Hmm.
proceeding, I'd like to ask them, please introduce yourself because we have passed 15 minutes and you didn't
Introduce
introduce
myself.
yourself.
Yeah. Actually, I teach a lot, right? So usually I don't introduce myself in the sessions. I ask for introductions. So I keep forgetting. But all right, since we are meeting for the first time, you're already aware about my name, right? So I've been tutoring English for about 5 years now, not on this platform, but on various other platforms and offline also. Started my journey with offline institutes only. Now, currently, I'm doing this as a hobby. So, this is not my main profession. I enjoy teaching English. It's something that gives me some sort of satisfaction in terms of teaching. But my main profession is counseling. So now I have a master's in counseling psychology, and I teach I take sessions, one-on-one sessions with clients. So that's my main profession, my main source of earning and everything. But yeah, this I continue and I still pursue because I enjoy talking in English. I enjoy talking to new people. So that's that.
But ma'am, in
Anything
this
else you would
profession,
like to know?
yeah, but ma'am,
Yeah.
you are yeah, in this profession you are also quite famous. I have watched your video with the Asutosh sir on his channel.
Uh, yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I think yeah, I've had a couple of videos with it. I honestly didn't know that they are posting a lot of my videos. I Somebody else told me that no, a lot of people have posted your recordings, and I was like, oh, that's good to know. It happens. It happens to the best of us. So
So, ma'am,
that's that.
as I can read your name, Tanishka. So, can you tell me the meaning of Tanishka? Is there any special meaning of this name?
Uh, not a very special meaning, but it basically means gold. Tanushka means gold. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, so that's that. But yeah, I didn't know my like the meaning of my name for I would say for the first 15, 16 years of my life. When somebody asked me and I had to actually go and search what does my name mean. Somebody else told me, oh, it's named after the brand Tanishq. There's a like jewelry brand also named Tanishq, right? There also the meaning is basically gold only. So then I
I
associated and I tried searching.
yeah, I was also thinking that your name is also related to like some jewelry. And one
Yeah,
very common question I would like to
yeah.
ask you, ma'am. This question is very important
Yeah.
for my student. Please tell me about an English journey. How did you get this fluency and
My English
how?
journey. Ah, okay. So I try to be very honest with my clients. For me, the journey was not that tough because I started speaking at a very young age. So I
Okay.
started speaking in English at a very, very young age. I also got the environment. Like I had a lot of friends who would converse back in English. So because of that, it was a learned behavior. When everyone around you is talking in a certain language, you tend to learn it easily, right? Especially as a child, because you're trying to expand your vocabulary, you're learning to express yourself. Besides that, I was also a very avid reader. So even now, I'm still an avid reader. I still love to read a lot of books. But back then, the craze was there. So I started reading and mugging up a lot of books. So that is where I got most of my vocabulary and grammar from. That's something I still recommend to people. Reading really does help, but only if you actually enjoy reading. If you don't like reading, you can stick with listening or watching also, whatever suits you better. So that's that. Besides that, when I was in school, I was on the forefront of a lot of competitions. Like I was taking my team to different schools, to zonal competitions and stuff like that. So when you're participating in those competitions, in order to win, you practice a lot, right? So that also helps you learn a lot of accent, learn different pronunciations, how to pronounce correctly without making mistakes in long speeches. So that continued up till 12th. Then again in my graduation also, I was very good in communication in terms of always interacting, always taking messages from teachers to students, being a good mediator and all that. So yeah, so it always has been something I didn't have to consciously do. It just happened for me. And now I feel I can express myself better in English than Hindi. So that's the drawback of it.
Okay, ma'am, you have done a lot of in English language, and you have got a good
Yeah.
achievement in English, and you have explored yourself very much. So that's why. Can you, ma'am,
Hmm.
tell me? You mentioned that you are speaking English from your very young age. So, are you from CBSE board school or a state board?
Yeah. I'm from CBSE board. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. So that's why you are the exception
Yeah.
of CBSE board, because before some time I was criticizing the CBSE board ki students are studying but they are not able to speak in English. But
Hmm. Yeah. Actually, you'll see that in Delhi. At least in the area that I was, the South Delhi area, a lot of the schools are still CBSE. ICSE is present less here in Delhi. So
okay,
in CBSE board here, at least the focus is there on English. Like it's sort of almost in the environment. Kids tend to learn from the environment. No teacher stands separately and tries to teach you. But
yeah,
here, teachers are aware of the language, so it's a mix of Hindi and English. No teacher completely talks in English or completely in Hindi, it's a mix. So you tend to learn from that environment. You tend to express a lot in English also as well as in Hindi. So
yeah,
that's that.
yeah. You're absolutely right, because in the Delhi there is the environment of if anybody little bit aware of this
Hmm.
language, so he can perform very easily and he can begin to speak in English. So in the
Yeah,
last question, I think our time is going to over, so I'd like to ask my own question that I have planned to ask you. So ma'am,
go ahead.
you tell me, if a beginner wants to learn English, so what are the some basic rules, basic steps that he should follow so that he can improve himself in a certain time and he can feel better? So what would you like to say about this?
Okay. So one of the basic ideas is that depending upon how much you're already speaking in English, right? So if your practice is already low, one of the activities that I tell people to adapt to is try recording yourself on a daily basis, right?
Okay.
So for example, at the end of the day, try to describe all the mundane things of your day, right? At the end of the day, before going to bed, make a very short recording, 4 to 5 minutes, where you're expressing your day. And don't record simple things like I got up at this time, I had this for breakfast. No. Try to describe more abstract things. Try to describe your laziness. Try to describe your emotion for the day. Try to describe your interactions that you had with people. Things that are slightly more complicated when you're describing it in a different language rather than your mother tongue. Right?
Yeah.
So that practice helps a lot. Also, because you've recorded it, you always have the chance to hear it again, right? Because when you're recording, you will never realize your mistakes. But when you hear it again, when you go for a second go, that is where you can pick out all the mistakes that you have made. Even if you have little bit of knowledge of English, you are able to do that very easily. Right. So that allows you to understand what areas I need to practice. Is it prepositions? Is it tenses? Or do I need to work on some tense formation? So that's one. For vocabulary, I usually tend to tell people that it's better to listen or to watch something and learn vocabulary rather than reading. Although I love reading myself, but I always tell people if you don't enjoy reading, you will get bored very easily. You won't
uh,
remember what you have read, right? So listening and any sort of visual content, it stays in your head and you learn things with context. If I give you
so
a list of 10 words, you'll forget, right? But if
yes,
you've
ma'am.
seen it in a show, you will remember. You'll be like, oh, the character used it like this, so I can use it in a similar situation, right?
Yeah,
Those are connections that are automatic. You don't have to try to form those connections, it just happens. So it's easier to learn that. These two activities being the primary, where I tell them, okay, start with this much, right? And then on the background, I always ask people if you have recognized your grammar mistakes, then work on those particular topics instead of working on the whole of grammar. The whole of grammar in English is too deep. But if your goal is communicative grammar, then initially just focus on the areas where you are lacking and you are aware that I'm lacking.
yeah,
So
absolutely
that's
right,
that.
ma'am. Yeah, some of
Hey,
whatever you have said, some of point I generally used to follow, like watching the visual things and try to explain the things which is around me and whatever I am thinking just before speaking. First, at least once I remind in my mind how can I speak in English. If the person are not understanding English, after all, I try to at least translate those things in my mind for myself,
yeah,
and visual content that always help us me very much. Suppose if I am learning the question and answer of the school time, so that question was didn't learn, but when we watch the movie,
yeah,
so whole movie just come into our mind without any kinds of
yeah,
preparation. Visual content is
right.
better for learning English. And in the last question, in the last thing, I would like to know how much English grammar is important for communication English.